Recently, I needed a quick glass effect for a project. Here's what I created, and I think it looks pretty cool, and notice how it reacts with the background. Let's dive in and see how we can create this effect in Affinity Photo. Before we start recreating, let's take a quick look on how the effect should be set up. As we see, we have highlights on the bottom left and the top right. On the other side, the bottom right and the top left have almost no shine. Finally, the surface of the glass does create quite a bit of blur. Now that we know what we need to do, let's start by creating a box using the rectangle tool. A quick tip, make sure you have a dark background with something on the background, as this will make it easier to see the changes while creating this effect. I'll just use a black fill layer and a sample text. To give our box round corners, we can use the toolbar while the box is selected. In the toolbar, choose Rounded for the corner and adjust the corner percentage to your needs. For the fill, we will use white and then change the blend mode to multiply. This will ensure that the box has a working area but is transparent, just like glass. We now have an invisible box, which we can use to add layers to create the shiny borders as we have seen. Select the box, right-click and choose Layer Effects from the context menu to open up the Layer Effects dialog. You can also use the Quick Effects panel and click on the cog icon on an effect to open up the Effects dialog. We're going to add two effects to the box. First, an Inner Bevel effect. Turn on the Bevel Emboss effect and choose Inner for the type. For the radius, we're going to use 1 pixel. Let's move the direction to the top right, which will result in an azimuth of 40, just so that we have a nice white shine at the top and the right of the box. Here's a quick tip. Because we use the Select or the Move tool, the object gets highlighted. But we can switch to the Hand tool, which removes the selection controls, and we get a better view of the effect we are working on. Next, we're going to add a 3D effect. So let's turn on the 3D effect checkbox and set the radius to 1 pixel again. The specular value should be around 70 and the shininess maxed out at 100. Let's also increase the ambient to around 60. This will probably get you a gray fill effect, but when we change the direction to an azimuth of around 45 and an elevation of 0, it becomes transparent again. The 3D effect adds a very subtle detail to the border and introduce a bit of shine and shadow in the box content. We did one corner. Now we need to apply similar effects to the other corner. However, as you can see, we can only have one bevel and one 3D effect. No worries. Let's close the dialog and create a group from the current object. We can now add layer effects on the group we created, which basically allows us to stack up additional effects on top. For the group, let's open up the Layer Effects dialog and add an Inner Bevel effect with 1 pixel radius, just as before, but this time with a direction azimuth of 130 and an elevation of around 70. This creates that bottom left shine we're looking for. Just as before, let's also add a 3D effect with a radius of 1 pixel. For the specular, I'm going to use 19%, the shininess 85, and the ambient around 60 again. For the direction, let's move it to the bottom left with an azimuth of around minus 145 and an elevation of around 60. Perfect, that looks pretty good to me. To finish the effect, we're going to add some live effects to it. Before doing that, let's group our created object so that the effects we are going to add will be contained or clipped only to the object area. So the first effect I'm going to add is a lens distortion. When I increase the radius, notice how it changes our box. To fix that, we need to make sure that the effect is below our box group. So let me move it below the box group in the Layers panel. Just make sure it is in the same group. When I adjust the radius right now, notice how the effect is now clipped within the boundaries of our box. Let's give it a distortion value of around 15%. Which looks pretty good to me. Keep in mind that you can click and drag on the canvas to adjust the center position of the lens distortion effect. To finish up, we just need to add a blur effect on top of the lens distortion, which we can do by adding a live Gaussian blur filter. Then adjust the blur radius to your liking. And that's it. Pretty cool. Let me copy the group and switch back to the first document and paste it in there to see the effect on a different background. Optionally, you can add a couple of more effects to it, like a lighting effect with a bump map or a displacement effect, to really make it something special. But usually, the lens distortion and the blur will be more than enough. I hope you liked this video, and thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons before you leave, and see you in the next video. If you watched so far, you really have liked this video, so why don't you press the hype button? Thanks and see you again.